Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and I'm having issues with my microphone. The stand just ripped off the damn table. But if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment. Hall of Fame College Football. Folks, before I jump into everything real quick, I'm going to switch to this other microphone. So I'm going to throw you on our Mint Mobile commercial just real quick. Hey guys, before we jump into the topics for the day, I just wanted to take a moment to shout out our partners at Hall of Fame College Football, Mint Mobile. Look, I am super grateful for this partnership with Mint Mobile because let's be serious, if you're anything like me, you're overpaying for your wireless service. But with Mint Mobile, you can get everything you get with big wireless, aside from the big price tag, for as low as $15 a month. Speed, coverage, data, 5G access, mobile hotspot. It's all available right there on Mint Mobile and for way less than you're used to paying at your big wireless carrier. How do they do it? Well, they basically just reimagined the entire wireless experience. No more dealing with a pushy salesperson. Everything you do with Mint Mobile is right through its app on the phone that you already own. You can literally go and purchase your service and activate it right now. Try mintmobile.com/HOF is our partner link. And if you sign up today, you can get 3 months of unlimited talk, text, and data for just $45. That's $15 a month for the best package they have for 3 months. If you could get it with big wireless, you can get it right here on Mint Mobile. Check it out and thank me later. Okay, welcome back to the show, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Give me a 1 or a thumbs up or something if you can hear me good. I think it's showing that it's working, so make sure here. But yeah, the arm just kind of hit the floor. What's up there, Bishop Frank? Zach Reynolds, welcome into the show, everybody. Glad to see everybody back in here. Had a little craziness last night, didn't we? Okay, good. Thank you, man. Thank you. Talking sauce, man. Good to see you, brother. Willie Ricks, Sharp, Shootas Podcast. What's up, my guys? Anybody interested in popping in here for a few minutes? You're more than welcome to. Between you two guys there, Talking sauce, I actually would like to talk to you a little bit there, Mr. Gator. As long as you're not going to yell at me like everybody else. All right, good. All right, good. Hey, thanks for everybody jumping on here and checking everything out. Look, guys, we're going to get into a few things. I have a guest coming on here in about 45 minutes. Jake Crain from Crain Company. We'll have him in here as well. Maybe getting Tim Fitzgerald back in here as well to talk a little bit. Need to get over and help promote some of his channels. They've got the his Big 12 show that they've been doing. It's a lot of cool stuff. Hello there, Kimberly K. Good to see you. Again, Talking Sauce, Zach Reynolds, Bishop Frank. Glad to see everybody in here. Check in when you get in. So glad to see everybody. Yeah, guys, figured we would start off talking a little bit, though, before we get into all this Rashada versus Billy lawsuit. Look, guys, the truth is when it comes to all that kind of stuff, you know, I think that the high top guys have definitely taken that a little bit personal for what we're talking about. My concern is kind of where this is headed for everybody. And it's not just how I felt about, you know, in regards to, I guess, you know, what Billy may or may not have done. All this is alleged stuff, but I think it's pretty clear that something isn't right. And I think that until it all gets out in the open, you know, I've seen kind of a few people saying this different places. Until it all gets out in the open and you get some kind of guidance in place, some kind of ability to not just protect the schools, but protect the players and you know, make sure that everything's on the up and up, then you're going to have these continued issues. And, you know, it just is what it is. but we'll get, like I said, we're going to get more into that. The question I have for you guys, and Talking Sauce, I'd love to hear this from you, what you think is coming up. Is this kind of thing, especially with the fact that Billy kind of comes into this thing on the hot seat? I think that you could see if they were improved, and obviously with DJ Lagway, I think that that's a concern. You don't really necessarily want to run him off by running off Billy too early, but this kind of feels like a time that if Florida was going to make a move and they needed a reason to make a move, they could do that. That's what we're going to kind of talk about with Jake Crain. Right now, we're going to, and then we'll get into a few other things as well. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of these different SEC rankings, some of the other stuff that you're starting to see coming out. This is list season, guys. This is definitely list season. I actually did see that for our Oklahoma fans that are in here, probably make you happy there, is that, of everything that we're seeing, you have a top 10 committed wide receiver in Elijah Thomas going to Oklahoma. That's a big deal there. RJ Young picked Oklahoma a little bit higher than what he had, than what a lot of these top 25 rankings have him at. He does have him at 14. My concern with it is that he has Midzu at 11. Don't like that one. But, it is what it is. I kind of to the point where I feel like people can think what they want at this point. And as a matter of fact, I almost welcome it at this point. If you think that Oklahoma is the same team as they were a year ago, if you're going to, just assume that nobody's developed or gotten better, or they hadn't gotten better with the guys that they picked up, then okay, that's cool. Keep that energy, because they definitely have a schedule that they're going to have to get after. But I do believe that they're going to step up and make a move this season. And we'll just kind of have to see where everything, kind of how it all plays out. Let's see what's some of this other stuff we're looking at. Then one of the things that you saw is that it actually kid that is in the state of Oklahoma, kind of a loss when you kind of look at it. But you had Anthony Agwan Ogumoro. I think he is a kid that has been living in Oklahoma for about a year with military family. He committed to Josh Heupel in Tennessee, offensive lineman. He's an offensive tackle guy. I think that kind of what PG has been talking about the last couple of days, as you kind of see this coming forward, is that this is probably a guy, if he's not going there, that probably is signaling to me. And I mean, there's still a lot of time left, but you got a couple of 5-stars out there. Michael Fasusi, Ty Haywood, both of those guys are still in play. I know a lot of people have them going to different places. I think Fasusi is definitely in the mix. He was actually on with PG last week, and I thought it was a great question for him to ask is, hey, what is a lineman thinking if they're not looking at coming and playing for Bill Bedenbaugh when he's got so many guys in the NFL that he's coached up? I thought that was a solid question, the right thing to say. And Michael Fasusi said, hey, absolutely. I was thinking about that the other day, and that's something you definitely have to look at. I think if you want to get coached hard, and then they're gonna coach them hard, Oklahoma is definitely the place. But the proof is in the pudding with that. So best of luck to Mr. Ogumoro. He looks like a stud too. He is a 3-star guy, but I think that the sites, they probably paid him a little bit more out there in Tennessee, and that's fine, because I think that the NIL money that is set aside for offensive linemen is definitely going to be for those higher end guys. They've already got some other guys, coming in. The thing is, you've already got a top 3 class according to 247 at the moment. Now there's a lot of time left. But if they can land one of these guys, Haywood or Fasusi, you're going to end up seeing Oklahoma definitely in a top 5 situation. Possibilities of even going a little bit higher than that. Um, but this is just another example of why Oklahoma fans are as excited as they are. Something I was, the show that we had the other morning with, and I know a lot of you OU fans got a little tight with what Blake said, didn't like it. I got to thinking about it, and that's kind of really where I'm at this point. This is part of what kind of makes college football great, is that first and foremost, we have a very in-depth knowledge of what we see and what we have seen and what this program has gone through over the last 3 years, right? And really over the last dozen or so years, since Coach Venables originally left, went to Clemson, and some of the changes that were going on back around the time that, Lincoln came and replaced Josh Heupel as offensive coordinator. I would say that most people are going to look at it very surface, like what you heard from Blake the other day. They're going to look immediately at the Alabama Bowl. They're going to look immediately at the fact that the second half of the season, the defense, which did not have near the depth that they have this year, a lot of injuries that happened, particularly to guys like Gentry Williams. You had a lot of young guys playing. There were some good things that were happening, but there were some things that weren't happening. The tight end room, super young, bunch of freshmen, and then you had guys that weren't stepping up that weren't freshmen. So while you got some good things out of some of those guys, there were some other guys that you needed more out of. Right now, they got the number one amount of production coming back, and I would venture to say that some of that won't even be probably production that, some of those guys are going to get less time playing, I think, just because of the simple fact, particularly at like the linebacker position. I'm going to not throwing any shade or anything like that, but I really have a hard time seeing a lot of Jaron Kanak on the field. I think you're going to get a lot more guys like Samuel Omosigo in the game. Look, Lewis Carter, they've been calling him the Crimson Missile. These are guys that are going to step in and get opportunities, and they've proven that they need to do that. And absolutely, Coach Ricks, this is absolutely right. I like this. Everyone still has that perception that Oklahoma is coached by Lincoln Riley and that Alex Grinch is the DC. Right. And I think, well, and even when I brought that, I'd said that to Blake the other day that, look, guys, I said, this is not Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma. And he goes, yeah, you don't have Lincoln Riley. And I was like, that's right. We don't. The softness, everything about this program says it's turning the corner the other way. The physicality, when we talk with Coach a lot, the one thing that I know a lot of people kind of discount Notre Dame because it's been so long since they've done it too. But if you watched games and watched them play last year, why did they go in there and why did USC go in there and get their tail kicked? Because the physicality was definitely on one side of the ball, and it was on the side wearing navy blue. That's what they have. And this is when we talk about, Coach is always talking about the similarities between the programs. I agree. I see that. And particularly the way that they do things, building on defense. They're building in the trenches. They've got a great offensive line at Notre Dame. Oklahoma has a great offensive line coach that, believes and preaches physicality. They've got guys that are going to step up and do that. I was excited to hear as much as we've heard on the offensive line when it comes to guys like Heath Zaida. Obviously, we talked a little bit about, Joshua Bates. And even though he is probably going to be moving out of the center position, the way that he kind of progressed throughout the spring, from what I feel, and knowing Bill Bedenbaugh like we know him, he wants versatile guys. I expect Joshua Bates to, at minimum, be in the 2 deep. And because they do got guys that are in the guard position, but I think that you're going to probably see some of that in that rotation. That's a good thing. We're talking about a big, big kid. Same with Heath. There's some guys that, you're hoping you get some of these other guys back, but with Jacob Sexton looking the way that he does, we've heard nothing but great things about the kid from the kid from North Texas, Wewu, Fabichi Wewu. Wow, you know what I mean? And then from everything that we're hearing, Michael Tarquin looks more like the guy that was at Florida than the guy that was, getting the yoga instruction there at USC. Got a little smaller out there on the West Coast. So we're gonna see. I think that's the main thing. You're seeing a lot of different stuff. What's up there, Brian? Good to see you in here. Glad you're here. But it's just a difference in everything. I think the culture is a different thing, right? But again, what I was saying about, look, I love it that all you guys are keeping those receipts because I'm keeping them too. But this is what makes what I do fun is that we're going to talk some trash. We're going to talk some trash. It was funny. I didn't get to bring it up to USCJ last night because Cody was having his little implosion. But he had ordered, I guess, some of those Pegasus shoes from, somebody at USC. And they were having an SC logo on the side. Well, one of the shoes was good. The other one, the SC was turned upside down. And he was like, should I send these back or whatever? He was asking on Twitter. And I was like, oh, no, you should definitely keep that. And he was like, what, are you messing with me? And I was like, of course. I was like, I threw the horns down at him and stuff, so that was funny. But I wanted to give him a hard time about it last night. But that's just a good part of it, man. You know what I mean? What's up there, chicken? Good to see you, bud. Kim. Let's see who else we got. We got 21 people in here. Hopefully everybody's hit that like button. Yeah, guys, obviously a little early here this morning, but we're going to have a couple hours. As I said, a couple hours. We're going to have Jake Crain on from Crain and Company. And obviously, I don't know how many people have seen the movie Lady Ballers. That's on the Daily Wire. That's who Crain and Company is, a part of the Daily Wire platform, which is obviously a conservative network or whatever. But those guys did that movie about, I'll play the trailer here in a little bit whenever we get him on. Hilarious stuff though, man. But as funny as it was, the funny thing about it was the fact that I think it made a great message because it's just so outlandish that men are playing with women in sports and they're allowing it. And it's so crazy to me. I want to talk to Jake a little bit about that. Definitely, we're going to have to talk about this stuff with Billy. You just kind of have to. And again, I don't feel like that's a situation where it's not just taking a shot at Florida here. It really isn't. It's a shot at the system that has been put on these guys for a long time. I don't know how anybody can really just blame it on Jaden Rashada. He's not the one that made the offers, or they're saying he overvalued himself. You don't overvalue yourself. The value gets set by what somebody's willing to pay. And it was a competitive market for him. So when you pull him away from a deal, no, they're not, again, Sooner in Texas, this is what I was just talking about with Blake. I'm okay with this, guys. And from what I've been watching of them, and I watch them all the time, and I give them a hard time. You guys know how I am. I give all these guys a hard time. I give the high top guys a hard time. They've been saying the same stuff, as pissy as they were last night about what we were saying about, what was going on at Florida. They love to talk smack about Oklahoma and what they are or what they're not. This is really, and I don't remember exactly, I'm not sure who it was, but it may have actually been Zach. Was it you, Zach, that we were talking on there? But I got to tell you, here's my whole deal with that. First off, it's fun. This is a trash talking business, right? But not, like I said, none of those guys are seeing what we see, and they're definitely not as deeply invested as a Sooner fan is going to be. Just like a Sooner fan isn't as deeply invested as what Jake and them. I mean, for if they're talking bad, I mean, they're Auburn guys, Auburn fans. So, if there's questions, I get it. And if you look at him, he's got some expectations. He feels like they have an opportunity. I don't think that most Oklahoma fans are so far on one side of it that they're saying there's no way that I don't hear a lot of people saying 12-0 around here. And it probably shouldn't be, guys. I mean, it's just being honest. Could I see them doing really good things like going 10-2, maybe 11-1? That'd be a hell of a season. Now that's going to put them in the mix, probably winning the SEC if you do that, right? In the end, let's just call it what it is. There's probably still a year away. But if things fall correctly and they step up in there, and I think that they can. I mean, I think that for as much as I think one of my questions would be to other creators, and I've been asking it to all these other SEC creators, are who are going to be your, not just who do you think is going to win it, but who's the long shot teams that you could see doing it. You're starting to see a few more of them. And in fact, Jake and them were talking about it on their show yesterday when they were talking to the guy from On 3. The On 3 guy was more saying he didn't think so because of the schedule, but he did think that there's a lot of talent there. And I think more people are noticing that. Even SEC Mike the other day said that he sees OU as a playoff team if their offensive line comes together the way it can. I hadn't heard anything similar to that on that SEC podcast leading up to that. Not at all. So I think there's less of that slander stuff. You're going to get a lot of it from the Mizzou folks like we talked about. You know you're going to get it from them. You know you're going to get it from Texas, and Texas is doing it because they're scared to death of what this is about to be. What's up there, T Boomer? Good to see you, my man. And yes, great call. Hey, look, if you aren't going over there and putting $100 down on, or whatever you got, whatever your unit is, that's good. And if you're not a bettor, forget that I'm saying this, but at 7.5 everywhere, you know how catastrophic it would have to be for them to not go over on that. As far as I'm concerned, I think we all know that. So this is a beautiful thing that they're sleeping on OU for that, not just for the sake of you going and winning some money, but you could definitely do that. The other part of it would be that I keep hearing, I love the Red Dirt show, you know, with Nick Six, and they're just funny, man. They're a trip. But Heath Zeta was on there, a couple weeks back? And he was talking about, he goes, man, they're sleeping on us, and we're deep on the offensive line. And that's what everybody's pointing to, that O-line. Like, it's just because they're replacing pretty much the entire O-line, although Jacob Sexton would have been a starter last year had it not been for the fact that he was hurt. But, you know, I think that with what Heath was saying, he was like, look, we're deep there. We're deep there. And the where we've come from, where we are now from where we were is a totally different thing. He talked a lot about some of the younger guys and where they were at. They talked about, I think Fabici Wewu, that he was just that dude, a straight up stud. He loved Joshua Bates. And then, you know, they were talking about him too. You know, Nick Six said, man, you've been stepping up. You know, that's why we brought you in to get you on the show, you know, because you've been stepping up too. I see. That's why I keep saying that to us, we understand that it's not that it's a bad offensive line. If you don't know any better, yes, there's questions. And I think that it's fair to question whether or not they're going to come together quickly, you know, how quick they can come together as a young unit and a new unit, right? Would they maybe be better off if you'd kept Caden Green? Maybe. The truth of it is, you don't need a guy that doesn't want to be there. The truth of it is, though, there's some freshman guys that could step up. I think EPO, his size and his athleticism just makes you think that he's going to have a shot right away. That being said, from everything we've heard, Wewu has established himself along with Sexton as those two are the dudes. Michael Tarquin looked really good. I don't know that it looks like Spencer Brown, or isn't that his name, Spencer Brown, the guy from Michigan State? Maybe he's not quite as advertised. A lot can happen over the summer, like we talked about. But you've got some depth and some opportunities there. I'm not worried considerably worried about what's going on with this room on that offensive line. I mean, you shouldn't be. PG was talking about that on his video that he just did this morning. That there's no reason to worry there. I agree. The other thing that I think is going to be a huge thing, and this is something we haven't talked about a ton, but something else that I saw too was that Oklahoma has the number 2 or 3 ranked running back room in the country, according to, I want to say it was an On3 thing, but I'm missing it. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Running backs. And believe it or not, it's even ranked ahead. Back room. It's even ranked ahead of Texas. So to me, that was a big deal. And you've got of course, that triggers all the UT fans, which, I mean, that's just great. Awesome. Nothing like a triggered Longhorn. Where is it? Latest. Should be right there. All right. Running backs. Rankings. Not NFL. Not seeing it. Okay. Well, whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. Get your bets in now. You got an opportunity, right? Mizzou won't shut up. That is a mud. Hey, and see, that's when that is the one I'm so the least worried about. I had thought about going out there. I don't even know that I want to go. I've been to Columbia before. It sucks. And it's going to be colder than crap too. I mean, we're talking what, November 9th is that game? It's already etched in my brain because they talk so damn much. Yeah. The line has about I don't know how many people are at. Well, that just goes to show you, though, there's a lot of people that bet. And I think a lot of it, there could be places that it's bumped up. I hadn't looked at the actual Vegas odds. On3 and DraftKings aren't Vegas. But I mean, they pretty much go by the same odds within a half a point or whatever when it comes to that kind of stuff. And everything that you've seen, I know that when one of the two, either DraftKings or FanDuel, they came out at 6.5, and it immediately got bet to 7.5 because so many Oklahoma fans immediately jumped there. You got to remember that with Vegas odds, they are not necessarily a projection of the number of wins. Okay, they're not. For as long as I lived in Vegas, that's one thing that you got to understand is that they could be within a point, but it may be a 1.5 when it comes to projections like that. And the reason they do that is just to entice action. And you don't want to be at risk if you're the sports book. You don't want to put yourself at risk by having just one side getting bet, because if something happens and that actually does go, so like say you just had everybody was betting, if you had it at 8.5 right now, you'd get a ton of under bets. Now, I'd still be betting the over, but you'd have a ton of under bets and a significantly larger amount of under bets for 8.5 than what you're going to get on 7.5. You're going to get a lot of people that are going to straddle that line. There's a lot of value in 7.5. A ton of value as a better at 7.5. So I absolutely believe that you should go bet that. Wherever you can find that, you should do that. That's where I feel like you kind of want to do that. But again, don't look at it as a projection of the number of wins that Vegas thinks they're going to get, or even FanDuel or whatever. What it is they're trying to entice bets on both sides. They want to make sure that they don't put themselves at risk, that if one side or the other happens, that they're coming out of pocket instead of the other bettors paying off those bets. You know what I mean? And that's all they're about. All they're about. They just don't want to lose money. So, I mean, I think that's, I'm not everyone to tell anybody to go, that's a lock, blah, 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 this and that. That's the closest thing I would call a lock, in my opinion, is, over 7 and over 8 games. I think 8 games means that they've had there's been something probably catastrophic when it comes to a bunch of injuries or something like that, right? I think that's what would get you there. Although I wouldn't sit here and tell you that 8-4 is the end of the world in year one in the SEC. That's not really what I see from this football team. It's just not. And particularly with the fact that there's a lot of haters out there. And Missouri, just like you said, they have talked so much that then they were talking all that crap about the tornado when, the first one that ripped through the town and got that little girl. I mean, even Okie Light fans were saying they hoped Oklahoma went in and won by 50 after that. That's saying something. But that just tells you how unused to success Missouri is. They've got another light schedule when you look at it. It's probably a good time to go back and look at the schedule again and kind of break down some of that. We're gonna be putting out some power rankings. But let's go into, let me share this for you guys. Oh no, I can't share that. Let's see. I'm gonna go to Mizzou real quick and just look at this. All right, so with Mizzou, they have them, the projected overall from the CFB professor, which I still need to get that guy to get back with me. I paid for his little service thing. I'd love to have him on the show. His projection is 9-3. Okay. I believe they were at 9 wins, 9.5 maybe on at Vegas. So, but his projection for them is 9-3. Their over under is more than likely, I believe it's 9.5. I'm pretty sure it's 9.5. But he actually has, and he's got, he does analytics. So this is a guy that looks at it in a certain way. Now their schedule's light. They start off with Vandy, but right off the bat in the SEC, after the Vandy game, they're on the road at Texas A&M. Texas A&M he's got them losing that game. I don't know how much stock I put in Texas A&M just yet. I do think that the fact that we're not hearing a bunch of stuff out of College Station, aside from a couple of weird, Billy Lucci and crew, they're going to make noise because that's what Billy and Lucci, they do that. And they suck and they still do it, right? But that's how they are. A&M, I wouldn't necessarily say that I agree with that. Something that that I think Blake kind of agreed with is I don't understand why people have so much belief in them, right? They've got them going 9-3, 10-2, something like that on here as well. But I do think at home, I think that Missouri, I struggle to see them going in and winning in College Station. If Wegman is still healthy at that point, and we're talking about week 6, they've had a bye already. I don't see a way, Missouri's on the bye. That would be the one thing that they don't have to worry about look aheads because they got Vandy and then they get a bye week before A&M. Then they go on the road at UMass. Then they got Auburn at home. Auburn in Columbia is not the same as going to Auburn, so I hear, at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Okay. Should they win that? Probably. Do you believe that the week after that? But here's the thing. The week after that, they're going to Alabama to play in Tuscaloosa. Very easy to look ahead there if you're Missouri. Very easy to look ahead there if you're Missouri. Over Auburn and end up, and it's already a toss-up game for them. I think they've got them. Yeah, they've got them favored by 3. They're underdogs by 9 points at Alabama. I think that that's a fair projection. I don't see Mizzou, I mean, they've still yet to really beat one of the good teams. They're going and beating up these mid-level teams or low-end teams like they did last year with Florida and South Carolina. Even Tennessee didn't have a quarterback, or else, you know, it probably wouldn't have been the same there because their defense is going to be good. But yeah, then they get another bye after Bama, and they're hosting OU after that. We already know, and the professor here, he's got Oklahoma favored there, only by 1 point, but he's got them favored. It's one of the toss-up games. But then they go on the road at South Carolina. Then they're on the road at Mississippi State. I would tell you that I believe Mississippi State is going to reach up and get somebody because I think it's real easy to overlook those guys. Jeff Lebby can dial it up when he needs to. And I think, again, Hank's talked about it a bunch. I think, Chicken, you said a few times. Zach, I think we all kind of talk about it. Overall, the SEC, they've got a couple of these teams that have these explosive offenses. By and large, though, you don't have a ton of them, okay? I guess Mizzou would be one of the ones that they're calling that on. I looked at the stats. Cook had he didn't even get 3,000 yards, you know? And he had Luther Burden and Theo, and they ran the ball really well. They're replacing their running back. I just don't buy it. What are we talking about? Oh, what is the minimum number of wins for you to consider a successful season? I mean, sooner it kind of depends on the situation. I think that I would have a hard time being all that upset at 8-4 in year one, just because of the fact that they're on the road at LSU. They're on the road at Ole Miss, even though I think Ole Miss talent-wise is going to be very good. Whether or not they're able to put all that together, it remains to be seen. And until they win one of those games that they're not really favored in, or they're not going to be favored in by a ton, I still have my doubts. That being said, I definitely like them better than I like Missouri. So I think that if, you win your home games, if you're able to get a win over Alabama at home, you can get Tennessee at home. Even then, if you were to take off and lose, say, the Ole Miss game, and you lose on the road at LSU, let me go to Oklahoma real quick. Is the next one down? I guess if you were to lose the Auburn game because Jordan Hare's haunted, they say, right? I think it does. I think it depends on where and how they come. I think you're just exactly right. Hank, if they were to go and play a really good game at Auburn, but weird things happen in that stadium and they were to lose, okay, you could at least excuse it to some extent, okay? I mean, we're talking about the Ole Miss game. They're only not fair. I mean, Ole Miss is favored by 2 points. 2 points. So that's a toss-up game. Missouri, Oklahoma's favored on the road there. Again, that is not a game that one I would not be overly excited. They better not lose much else if they lose Mizzou. I'm not going to be happy about that one. You beat Alabama. You have a good showing on the road at LSU. Because, look, I don't think that LSU defensively, particularly by that time of the year, defensively, Oklahoma could have a big day offensively, right? Yeah, I'm not. See, I think he's just kind of mid, man. I mean, I think he's okay. I think that he kind of doesn't show up in big moments, though. Or at least he hasn't. He hasn't been that guy to show up in big moments. They were in the game against Georgia until midway through the third quarter, and then they got blown out. He had a couple of stupid plays, threw an interception. Next thing you know, Georgia's beating them by, I think they beat them by 30, 35, something stupid like that. Yeah, it wasn't good. So yeah, but they also have a pretty good running back room. They have a very good offensive line. And one thing I would tell you is, as much as a lot of people talk about Third and Golding being their defensive coordinator, you know who else they got to come in there? Zach Arnett. Okay. Hey, speaking of, hey, we're got an opportunity here to go ahead and talk to our guy. Look, we'll get into that a little bit here. Just right now, we have a guest coming in. This is one. Hey, man, I'm pretty excited about this guest here. Love the platform that they're on. Love their show. Welcome into the show for us here. He is the Crain in Crain and Company. And if he says that that's not true because his brother Ben Crain is also on the show, I'm going to just say that it was him that said it. So it doesn't really matter. But he is the Crain in Crain and Company. And as I told you guys a few minutes ago, got to do a little bit of work with him on High Top's game day last year. I think that they were rigging the game for him to win every week. I'm going to stick with that all the time. But welcome into the show, our guy, Jake Crain from Crain and Company. What's up, my man? How you doing?
Man, what is up? It's good to be with you. Yeah, I'll I may have got that Nick Saban bump a little bit in the High Top game, but no, it was fun chopping it up with you and excited. I'm just ready for football season to get here. I'm hoping it speeds up a little bit.
Brother, this talking season, man, it's getting, and especially now that you got the Florida fans going crazy and everything, we'll definitely get into some of that. You know what I was thinking about the High Top stuff though is we went in and I kept thinking, because you guys, I had been watching your channel a little bit. Mostly I was catching like you were doing those stories on the like recruiting stories and stuff that were going on when you were coaching and things like that. And when and wasn't your dad a coach or something?
Yeah, man. He coached for probably about 14, 15 years, 8 of those in the SEC. I mean, hell, I remember when we lived in Fort Worth when TCU was a Division II team. He coached there and with Pat Sullivan, and at Troy with Larry Blakeney. So we're just a sports family. That's what we did and what we do.
Right on. So I think that's kind of what I was catching a lot of you guys' shorts when you were first getting started there. And shout out to you guys for, obviously doing everything you're doing. I didn't realize who you were though until probably the last one. I was on there about 3 or 4 times. I know you were on there pretty much every week. You were their MVP guy, but that's cool. But I realized I saw the promo for Lady Ballers, and I immediately went and got on the thing. Talk to me about that a little bit before we get into this crazy stuff. Tell me about that experience about Lady Ballers and what that was for you guys. Hilarious movie, but I kind of felt like it also, as wild as the shit was on that show, it's real. This is what's going on here. So it was also probably one of the best message movies I think of the year, and probably 5 years, man.
Dude, well, number one, I appreciate it. Yeah, they stopped making comedies like that. It seems like in the 2000s. I mean, shoot, I grew up with like Old School and Wedding Crashers and stuff like that, where we're able to laugh at ourselves, and everybody wasn't worried about being so PC. And look, we're we're the sports show for the Daily Wire. We're on YouTube, we're on all that stuff, but we really don't get political outside of the men and women sports thing. And like that, to me, that's not even political though. That's just common sense. It's like, it's not political for me to turn on my blinker when I'm on the interstate. It's a safety thing. Like, men shouldn't play in women's sports. To be honest with you, I don't know anybody who actually really believes that should happen. Like, I've never met anybody that's like, man, I just think that men should just play in women's sports. Like, I really truly believe that, because it's ridiculous, man. At the end, I don't care. Look,
I'm a fan.
I don't care who you voted for.
I was very, very, very upset at Dawn Staley.
Well, see, like some of these women are scared. These high-level women are scared to come out and say anything against it because they're worried about the backlash and losing sponsorships. And listen, I understand. I got a mortgage to pay. I got a wife. I've got bills I have to pay. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sell my soul and sit here and die on some, for lack of a better term, dumbass hill of men and women's sports. I mean, the fact that we're even having to talk about this, like it's even a thing, to me just shows, I mean, how far off the deep end some of this stuff has gone. So yeah, we made fun of it because it should be made fun of. And I think
anybody who's got a daughter, a granddaughter, a sister, a wife, a mom. If you got a mom, you got to have a problem with this.
Yeah, like again, if you're just a man, listen, I don't care if you're gay, straight, That thing where you dress up like a penguin and rub a balloon in the kitchen. But I think we can all agree that men shouldn't play in women's sports, and so we made fun of it. And they paid us to dunk on chicks and talk trash. So it was wild. It was fun though.
When David like slammed that girl wrestling, I was like,
oh my God. Like, dude, literally I'll never forget. They like got in the van and went to this other place to shoot that scene. And when he came back, it was actually my brother that did it. When he came back, he was just sitting down by himself. And I was like, dude, what's the matter? He's like, bro, I just had to slam the stunt girl, like slam her like 15 times. He's like, it just, I don't know. And it's hilarious. It's like the opening thing on the trailer. When you watch the trailer, it got like 15 million views. But I mean, that's to the point where we've gotten. I mean, Fallon Fox beat the hell out of a bunch of chicks in the UFC. They let a dude just crack skulls in there. So look, at the end, that's why I'm just ready for football season. You ain't got to worry about that anymore after the Sarah Fuller experiment.
Well, I'm glad that you guys did it, though. To me, that was such a big. I think it took balls. It took balls. Plain and simple, it took balls for you guys to do it. I was excited about it. It was hilarious. I mean, funny. I appreciate stuff,
it, man.
But it was outlandish. But the real world is outlandish right now.
Yeah, it's actually slowly
absolutely outlandish.
The more time that goes on, it's turning into a documentary. Like that's how crazy this stuff's getting.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I kind of, got to where I was watching you guys all the time. But look, obviously the last couple of days that we've seen all this stuff blow up at Florida. Watching you guys a little bit yesterday, we had a show last night, and God bless the high top guys. They're pissy and pissed off at me about it, but because we're talking about it, and I understand that Florida's feeling upset they're feeling attacked right now. My question is, I feel like you're in a situation now that it always seemed there was something not right there, and I'm in a position where I don't love that I don't love it. I hate it that we're blaming athletes for the things that have been set up by the administrations, coaches, the NCAA, and these athletes are getting ripped. I don't expect, and I don't believe it. I want to get your opinion on this, but I don't believe that they're worth $13 million. I don't think that you can have 2 or 3 guys that are worth $13 million.
Yeah.
But that's not up to me. The bottom line with me was something happened here. It's obvious that they offered whatever the number was. I don't care. They offered more at Florida with no intention of paying, if you believe what you're seeing in this lawsuit, right?
Yeah, well, look, as far as the Florida fans being upset, that's part of it. Something happens at your school. If this happened at Georgia, the Florida fans would be the first people out there making fun of them. Well, like, this is how it works, right? This is why the sport is so great. It's because the passion's so high. Agreed. But as far as the value, there is no high school senior recruit in the sport of football that is worth $13.85 million.
No,
there's just not one.
A high school kid? No way.
There just isn't one. And there were people on social media that said, "Oh, well, in capitalism, your value is worth what somebody's willing to pay you." Well, Florida didn't pay him that. So, none of what was said was wrong. The problem that I have now, there's a very small percentage of guys that I think are worth $1 million of NIL. If Johnny Manziel would have come back and said, "You know what? I will come back to Texas A&M for $8 million," he would have been worth that $8 million. If Cam Newton at Auburn would have said, "You know what? I want to come back in 2011," that would be worth $8 million. Some of these guys in the transfer
somebody probably would have doubled that to have him come back and go
without a doubt. But we see this in all walks, right? Why is the NFL contract, the second one, more valuable than the first one? Because you're a proven commodity, right? Why do guys in the transfer portal make more NIL money than high school recruits? Because you're a proven commodity. If I know what Cam Ward's going to do, I am willing to pay more because I've seen him operate at this level. Just like the NFL draft, taking a player out of high school is a projection. You have projection versus proven commodity. proven commodity is always going to be worth more because I know what I'm getting. It's like the opposite of
Sure.
buying a car. I don't want to buy a car that's got 200,000 miles, but if I'm going to go get a player out of the transfer portal, I would love for you to have 100,000 miles worth of game experience, because experience at the end of the day is the unteachable intangible. So the fact that this deal was even offered, that this was even in the works, was stupid to start with. What makes it even dumber is that you didn't come through with it, because regardless how the lawsuit ends up, what side you're on, I think it's a bad look for everybody involved. And to your point about the athletes getting ripped, I think there's a two-way street here.
Sure.
Right now, the way the NIL set up is it's a one-sided contract pretty much. It's all for the athlete. There is no consequences. There's no breach of contract. There's no this. Until we have a system set up where there are consequences for each side, where, hey, you're coming here, here's a deal, NIL deal for 2 years worth $500,000. If you leave or transfer or go anywhere else out before that 2-year quota hits, you are in breach of contract and have to pay it back. I'm glad that players are getting paid for name, image, and likeness, just like I get paid for my name, image, and likeness.
Though, Jake, that's the problem with the whole thing, is that they used NIL for something that it wasn't intended to be used for.
I agree. And that's why I've said, I think, to me, when this NIL stuff got brought up, to me, what it is if Dr. Pepper wants to do a deal with Bryce Young, then Dr. Pepper's people reaches out to Bryce Young's people, because you can have agents now and representation, which you should have, and they do a deal. There should be no middleman. Well, now these collectives and these schools have created this middleman, and it's thrown everything off the process. So if I'm doing a show for the Daily Wire and somebody wants to sponsor our show, their entity talks with our entity and they get the deal done. There is no middleman. There is no buffer. There is no filter. We've created a monster in the middle. And these schools have said, why don't we just take all this money and we'll pool it together, and then we'll divvy it out how we see fit. It has broken the system, but this is what happens when you let the monster out in the village without any rules. You can't be shocked when he starts ripping villagers apart. We did it with the transfer portal. We did it with NIL. And now, to put a bow on it, we're going to have to go through this Jaden Rashada stuff. We're going to have problems arise so we can mold this ball of clay. We're having to set precedent on the run. We're having to set case law while we're building the parachute on the way down. And that's never a smooth ride. It's never a smart ride. And that's where we screwed up. And everybody's so scared to do anything against the players right now, because if you take anything to court that is against the best interest of the players, you are looked at like the Soviet Union. Until that gets fixed, we are going to continue to have these problems. We're going to have to build the parachute on the way down.
I agree with you. And I think, Coach I, you're right on this one. The Fanatic Sports, welcome and shout out to you. Yeah, man, I think that's, you think about where this started. And, the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit was 10 years ago that it was filed, where they were remember when they got rid of NCAA football to start with, that was because of the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit. I was still in Vegas at the point, and you knew that something like they knew 10 years ago that they needed to get some kind of plan and structure in place to start paying the players. The NCAA has been dragging its feet. There has never been an intention that they wanted to do it, and they've dragged their feet the whole way. Then when they go, and it was funny because when they went to the Supreme Court about something entirely different, and Kavanaugh comes down on them for their labor practices, and what do? They throw NIL out there like it's a parachute. Like you said, this is going to be the catch-all. They put some laws into place that weren't really lawful to go state to state with, and expected it to just poof, everybody's going to be able to work it right. Obviously you're always going to have people that are not going to they're going to test the system. Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. If you've got the opportunity and the ability, they want to win so bad, they're just going to throw money at it and not worry about culture at all. And that's what they do. Whereas Georgia is not, and Alabama hadn't really been that way. That they're not, to say they're not paying, but they're not leading with that. They're not leading with, we're going to give you $10 million or whatever it is, or we're going to outbid everybody. It's like, look, yeah, you can do well in NIL stuff, but you're going to have to earn that here. And because we go win championships. There's a lot of you out there, you know?
Well, to me, and again, there's many different ways this thing's getting sliced. You seen what Prime's doing in Colorado. You see what Lane's doing at Ole Miss. Here's what I believe. What I believe is, number one, it's all circumstantial. You're in a lot different circumstance as a head coach. Let's use Hugh Freeze in Auburn for an example. You come into Auburn year one. You need to garner some momentum. The roster is not good, right? You've had a lot of players leave to the transfer portal. You don't have a lot of depth, especially up front. You may need to lean heavy on the portal early while you get these high school recruits and develop them. But by year three, in my opinion, you should be operating on all cylinders. And I think the perfect recipe is that you don't build the ship out of the transfer portal. You plug holes in the ship with the transfer portal. And I think Lane has pressed it about as far as that line can go, right? Especially when we've watched them do defensively, especially in the front seven. But Prime's just trying to build the whole thing on the transfer portal. I don't think that's going to work.
Flipping the year over year over year. I don't think you could do that.
And then Dabo's on the opposite fringe of that. Dabo's, really not trying to touch the transfer portal, which I don't agree with either. I think it's a good balance. It's a good blend of, listen, we'll get mercenaries where we need to have a few spots that we need going into this year for depth. Or, hey, if we can go get a Dominic Lovett at receiver for Georgia, great. But I'm not going to have my whole team be brought in from all these different places and different colleges. It's a mixture of development and mercenary. And once you get that mix, it's like Goldilocks' porridge, right?
This one's too. It's just like the NFL. The best teams in the NFL build in the draft, and they sprinkle in free agents when they
look at the NBA. Look at the NBA. Look how the Warriors did it. Look how the Bucks did it. Look how the Nuggets did it. Look how the Timberwolves are doing it. You do it with the ones you developed, and then you add the icing on the cake once the cake is already made. That's why I keep telling people with the Knicks, Colin Cowherd and them are like, they need to go get a star, but not mess with the culture. That doesn't exist. You've got a great core. Go get some nice ornaments to put on the tree. Don't build the tree out of the ornaments.
Yeah. No. And Coach I, that's what we were just saying. It's exactly the difference in the teams that are competing regularly and the teams that aren't, and that there's a lot of hype about them. There's a lot of hype about. That's why I said I don't know that I buy this hype about Ole Miss. I don't know that I buy this hype even about Ohio State, because although they went out there and got really good players. Ohio State should do it this year. There's no excuse for Ryan Day right now.
No, without a doubt. I mean, I think Ohio State and Georgia have the two best rosters in college football. Now, and you look at Ohio State, last year they started 2 new tackles and a new center. Those guys are coming back. They just happen to add Caleb Downs. They bring in Will Howard, which I think Kyle McCord got a bad rap. But if you're Ryan Day, you get Michigan at home. You look at that schedule. I know Oregon's coming over. I know Washington's coming over. But there is no excuse and no reason for Ryan Day not only to beat Michigan. You got him at home this year. And they lost half the farmers and the animals at the end of the day when you look at the players and the personnel that left. And then obviously Harbaugh, even though I think, Coach Moore, that was a great hire. He's got experience being the head coach already at Michigan. There's no excuse for Ohio State not only to beat Michigan, but to win the Big Ten. That roster is absolutely loaded.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But in the end, that's what I was saying is the teams that you've seen that have been in the situation that they're in the playoff every year, in the 14 playoff or right there near it, it's because they're doing it with culture first. We talked about it with Oklahoma. They're doing it the same way. Venables came from what Dabo was doing, but he has been quicker to, warm up to it because he got left kind of
and Brent hadn't been there for 10 years, and been able to build that thing up the way that he wanted it. So at the end of the day, I mean, you've got to go in there and throw the first punch. You want to make a good impression.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to. And, so yeah, that's getting back to kind of to Florida though, and where this is at. And the question I was going to ask you with some of this is, and I think you asked David this yesterday. What are your feelings though about this kind of stuff? These are the things that kind of turn into change, that finally you get change, because it's gone too far. I don't think that it's not that I'm trying to just blame one side or the other either, but I would also tell you that right now The NCAA has no power to do anything to Billy. Now, Florida does. Yeah. And I loved what you said yesterday. I'm going to ask you that in just a second. But do you think that this kind of situation where you're going to have people all around the country that are like, what in the hell is going on? I think that's where people are for the most part. You've got a certain number of people that are like, he overvalued himself. No, he didn't. He got overvalued by teams, by coaches and, what they're in their collectives and all of that. To me, you've got to find a way. But does this turn into the change that college football fans want and we need to have in the sport?
Well, I mean, look, it's just like anything. How are laws made? Like how was the Constitution made? You run into problems and then you got to fix the problems, and you don't know all the problems until they present themselves. This is, and again, it's not like problems weren't going to arise even if there were rules. But since there was basically no rules, now every problem has to arise to fix it. We've seen this again. What do people look at in the law? They go, okay, well, am I going to take this case? I need to go look at what precedent. We are having to set precedent on the fly. So in one vein, and this is what I was telling David yesterday, I almost look at this as a good thing, because at least we are finding a problem and we can have a solution and a rule that's put together to be able to fix it. And when the Power Five eventually breaks away, right, from the NCAA officially and all that stuff, these rules will be able to be set in place because they can look back and say, all right, new governing body, commission, panel, whatever the hell we're going to call it. We need to make sure we have this buttoned up in NIL, this buttoned up, and this buttoned up, and this buttoned up. But still, along the way, these problems are going to arise. And once they arise, we are going to have to set markers and rules so they don't arise again. It's like teaching a kid growing up. Hey, don't put your hand on the hot stove. You did it. Now your hand's hot and you burned yourself.
Can you make these changes, though, with the NCAA that, to me, is completely inept?
Well, the NCAA has no power until there's a breakaway commission or anything and a governing body that people fear. See, nobody fears the NCAA right now. You can't govern if there is no fear. How do you think dictatorships stay around for so long? Because there's fear. You would rather be feared than loved in most instances. And that's what the NCAA was. Now they're neither loved nor feared. So they have no power. And the most ironic thing about this situation is that a now backup quarterback at Georgia is suing the head coach at Florida, and the NCAA can't do anything because Tennessee kicked their ass in the courtroom earlier this year. This is just like an top shelf SEC East, just amalgamation of crazy irony together. But look, we're going to get to a point. We're going to get to the point where there's a Death Star that's created that's going to levy these rules, and people will say, all right, well, now I fear this because they can impose penalties.
No doubt. But that's where I feel like when do we see? I mean, I think that it's pretty clear that they're probably about to settle this House versus NCAA. You keep hearing, I mean, apparently the ACC and Big 12 have agreed to whatever their settlement is. I don't know that means a ton because they're not really the ones that need to agree to it.
No, they're the skinniest kids at fat camp right now. It's cool you're the skinny kid at fat camp, but you're still at fat camp. We know who makes the rules.
Yeah, right. Exactly. In the end, I guess until they end up getting, I don't have any belief in what the NCAA is. From what you guys are hearing, are we closer to having a commissioner that oversees this, the new playoff or whatever the situation is going to be when it comes to that?
We're barreling towards it. I can't give you an exact time, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to have a situation where, and I see Rhyming Lemon here says any governing body will be undermined and disrespected right now. See, that's not true, because what's going to happen is when this breakaway,
probably going to be somebody like Nick Saban.
Well, yeah, you're going to have Greg Sankey probably be the czar of this thing. So what's going to happen is they're going to break away in football in the Power Five, and they're going to say, all right, we're forming our own entity with our own rules. So when you sign that NLI to go play at Florida, or you sign that NLI to go play at Georgia, you are now contractually obligated to the governing body. Like the courts and all this stuff, if you don't want, here's what they'll say. If you don't like our rules, then take your ass to the group of five or just don't play. They have that type of power.
They were on the playoff already. They were fixing to go and move on their own.
For sure, because they have enough gumption. They have enough behind them to where they say, all right, well, we've got the SEC, we've got the Big Ten, we've got the ACC, and we got the Big 12, and they have all agreed to the rules of this governing body. So when you sign up to play for them, you are signing into these governing rules. If you don't like it, then don't play. Like, that's just, it is what it is, because now there's no NCAA. Oh, you want to go take it to court? Well, you signed that NLI, buddy. The minute you signed it, you took away any of that ability. The NCAA doesn't have that power because they've already gotten beat up in court. This new governing body is going to make sure everything is buttoned up before they start putting the boats on the shore.
And I've said a lot in the past, and I don't think we've brought it up too much lately, but if you are Fox and ESPN that is putting out billions of dollars every year right now for this product, I would want the commissioners of these leagues to get their house in order when it comes to the transfer portal, when it gets to paying these kids, all of it, because you're hurting the product when you have 2,000 kids that never make it out of the portal. And I'm not saying that, that you have an opportunity, you don't have to go, but you are going. There needs to be some things in place for education for these kids. There's a lot of things that aren't happening. Just throwing NIL out there was not the answer. In fact, it was a terrible answer, but they did it because they've never been proactive. This is why I would never, believe in the NCAA moving forward either. I want to see them have somebody in there that's going to get it done. You know what I mean? That's actually going to work for the better of both sides. I think that no matter what you said to start this with, it's got to benefit both sides. If there's no protection for the players, like there hasn't been for years and years and years, and now there's no protection for when Kirby Smart says, man, all I really want is to know what my roster is moving forward for a year even. Yeah. That's not a ton to ask for those guys. But in order to do that, you've got to have somebody that's going to have moving forward. My problem is that it's pretty clear to me that Florida knew what they were doing. The only reason that Florida itself wasn't named in this lawsuit is because there's a law in the state that says you cannot sue a public university or a state university and get damages over an X amount. So they didn't do that on purpose. Rusty Hardin is not a stupid man. He went after the guys that have the money and that aren't going to be protected under that.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, and I said this yesterday on Crain and Company, another ironical thing about this is if you're Jaden Rashada, you now have become the biggest Florida fan. You want Florida to do well. Why? Because if Florida does well and they have to keep Billy Napier, right? Let's say Florida shocks a lot of people, has a really good year, and they're like, all right, we want to get this black cloud settled. They will settle that lawsuit as quickly as humanly possible to get this thing gone. Right, to get it out, because you don't want this hanging over you. It's already going to hang over you a little bit regardless, but Jaden will get the money. If it doesn't go good, and I think Florida, if it doesn't go good, here's a silver lining for them, may have a loophole to fire Billy with cause and not have to pay the buyout, right? That just like we saw Tennessee do with Jeremy Pruitt. So if that happens and Billy is still the one named in the lawsuit, they're going to string this he said, she said BS through court as long as possible. And I don't think Jaden's going to get any money. So the funniest part about this is Jaden Rashada needs to become the biggest Florida fan of all time so he can actually get money off this settlement, in my opinion.
Okay. So what you're saying is, because I'm kind of wondering, my question is does he even make it to the season?
Because really? I think he makes it. I think he makes it. I think now this, there's already, look, when you coach at a place like Florida, regardless of what has happened in the past, there's always a lot of pressure. But now this game against Miami, week 1, this is career course setting for Billy Napier. You lose this game, it's all that bad stuff's just going to get piled and piled and piled, and we're going to start to see that shift toward, all right, we got to get ready for post-Billy, post-World War II, right? We got to get ready for the rebuild, the reconstruction. If they beat Miami, you're going to see a circling of the wagons. We knew Billy was the guy. We're behind Billy. Jaden's run by a bunch of agents and handlers that are scheming and slimy and grimy. Anyway. It's just, that's how it is, but that's how it should be, right? Like, that's, your fan is short for fanatical. All right. So you're going to take the side
Sure.
of whatever, is best for your team. And that's the human condition. And that's a good thing. I think that's one of the reasons the sport has become so popular.
Yeah. Napier will be in Florida for years to come as an analyst for Miami. Well said there, Lincoln Riley's brisket. Like that statement. I don't know that I agree with it. I've been saying this before. As tough as that schedule is, and it is a gauntlet to end all gauntlets. When you look at it overall, from not just in the conference, out of conference, the whole thing, they're playing a tough schedule. I still think that they can win 7 games with this team. I do. I think that they've got to. I think some things got to happen, but I also think that if you use DJ Lagway in certain ways, Graham Mertz plays anywhere close to how he did last year, and then Billy just doesn't make the dumb mistakes that they made in special teams and certain things like that really kind of derailed them. Mm-hmm. I think they can win 6 or 7, and I certainly think they can hit the over 5, over 5.5. I mean, they should do that because I say that their non-con schedule is tough though.
Well, look, it's the schedule. I've said it's like getting jumped by a group of ninjas with baseball bats when you walk into your house when you look at that schedule. Yeah. But Graham Mertz, I thought, was one of the biggest surprises of last year. That was one of the few things that actually shocked me with how well he played. I mean, Florida had a top 50 offense in the country. Defensively, they've got to get a lot better. We know that, but it wasn't just that they lost.
There though. It seemed like
it was. But like my thing with Florida was, and you kind of hit this a little bit. It wasn't just that they lost. It was how they lost. They looked unorganized. They beat themselves. A great example. You look at the Utah game. You go out playing against Utah. It's 7-7. You're able to rebound from them hitting a 70-yard touchdown on their first pass. You get a 3-and-out. It's 7-7. You get a 3-and-out. It's 4th and 4. And you send 2 guys with the same number jersey out on punt return. I was a special teams coordinator at Division I level for 5 years. All right. We have a sheet that has the whole depth chart on it. And I know everybody's number. And if, God forbid, there's 2 guys with the same number, I color code them to make sure that they're not out there the same time. That is an egregious and unacceptable mistake. It's that should never happen.
Not kneeling against Georgia Tech type of shit.
Yeah, that was just. I mean, I after that one, I need to see your DraftKings account after that one.
Right. No, hey, I get it. Everybody wants to see Billy say, if you are a rival of Florida, you want Billy to stay, huh? I get it. I think that we may be saying differently because DJ Lagway stays around. The dude is the truth. And he's there for Billy. He's not there for anybody else. Maybe he stays if not, but I don't know. I think you have to get the right guy to keep Lagway around. I can see where you're saying. I could also see that because it's a different president, he didn't hire the AD, he didn't hire Billy. He doesn't have to care, and he can say,
"Not my guy." It's not my guy. Just listen. Again, if I'm the head coach, I want to be able to hire I don't want to be the head coach and you tell me what offensive coordinator I got to keep or what coaches I got to keep. Sure. If I'm going to be responsible for the final product, it's going to be my guys that are doing it. If I'm the president of the school, I really deep down, I hope it goes well and I don't have to touch it. But I don't want to be held with my feet to the fire because there are other guys. It's like play calling, like these head coaches that made their name calling plays, and then all of a sudden they become the head coach and they divvy out the play calling to somebody else. That typically never works. Like the Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb thing, that was the anomaly. We've seen it with Gus Malzahn. We've seen it with Sarkisian. We've seen it. Lincoln Riley's like, I'm calling the plays. Like, you can do whatever you want, but I made this money and I made my name on being good at this. I'm not going to stop doing this once I get to the highest level of my career. That takes more balls than anything.
But that's also the reason why I would argue that Lincoln had such a bad second year with a Heisman Trophy quarterback there. It's because of the fact that he has never, it's not just the offensive stuff. It was the fact that he has never taken over as the CEO and put enough emphasis on special teams or on defensive, even having complementary football. I know you've talked about this. I know that, this is something that they talk about a lot right now, especially at Oklahoma, because it's finally something that you can see happening. When you're out there and you get a 3-and-out right away, or even if you score a touchdown in one play, you didn't really help your defense very much there to get a little breather and keep them off the field a little bit. No sustained drives. I understand dialing it up, and nobody dials it up better than Lincoln. I don't think anybody does. Period.
Yeah, he's one of the best out there.
But he had arguably the best running back in the country last year, and the guy got 10 carries a game while Caleb Williams was running around for his life.
Yeah. Well, here's where I think Lincoln, because again, look, Sarkisian calls the plays. They don't have any problems. You look at Josh Heupel, he calls the plays. He calls the plays. Oh, well, talking about Texas, their ass made the problem of going in and beating Bama's ass and then making the playoff. I think Sark's doing pretty well. I'd love to trade places with Texas right now when you look at what they have. You look at Josh Heupel in Tennessee. Yeah, look, he runs a fast type system, but he understands the balance of doing it. The
thing about Josh is that he doesn't care if he goes run heavy or he has to be pass heavy.
He wants to run it. It's a math problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a math problem. He's doing simple math problems at warp speed. But here's the thing. You can call the plays and be an offensive guy. That's fine. Just like Nick Saban can really call the plays for the defense, but you have to be a head coach for everybody. I've been on those teams where the head coach was an offensive guy, and at practice, he's just over there hanging out with the offense, making sure that's going good. During team drills, he's rooting on the offense. And what happens is you create two head coaches. The head coach in name, that's just the offensive head coach, and then the defensive coordinator becomes the head coach for the defense, really, and de facto the special teams. That creates a rift and a problem. There's a balance there. It's understanding how, and a lot of it is practice structure. That's what these coaches, and it's a moving target. It always changes when the rules change, but you can be an offensive guy and still be the head coach of everybody. You can be a defensive guy and still be the head coach of everybody, but you just can't be so one-sided that half the team goes, well, this coach really isn't, there for me, or he really doesn't care about if the defense does good. And that takes a little bit out of you. And that's why I think you see this softness from Lincoln Riley's team. And he hung around with Alex Grinch. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, yeah, and they've got a freaking Tybo instructor as their strength and conditioning coach.
For sure.
Same deal. They're soft as baby shit.
Mm-hmm. That's why I like Brent. I think Brent's a tough-ass dude that understands that we need to be good on offense. We need to be good on defense. But the team needs to know, I want the whole team to do well. I understand that balance keeps you on the beam. I understand that we have to be physical. I would rather be physical and less flashy than more flash and sizzle and soft as Charmin Ultra. And that's what Lincoln's teams have been. That's what his identity is right now. Oh, we're gonna dress up and go to the Great Gatsby party, but I'm not going to win a bar fight.
That worked when Texas was trash, and you had the rest of the league that had been decent leaving because of the Longhorn Network and all that other stuff. But that time period, and I've said this as an Oklahoma guy for a long time, it was a lot of smoke and mirrors while Lincoln was the head coach there. A lot of smoke and mirrors. They were slapping up. They had great quarterback play. They had always great play. I mean, I never say anything bad about the way he is able to dial it up, scheme the game. But when you kind of are skating by, and in the Big 12 has not been good. They won 5 freaking Big 12 championships in a row because of the fact that, look, there was just nobody else to do it. Okie Light will gag every time they get an opportunity to. They're going to throw it up. Texas hadn't done anything in 14 years. It took them 14 years to win a conference championship, and they still couldn't beat Oklahoma. This is where, I mean, the folks in here, the guys that Sooner in Texas watches your show and he thinks that you're on OU all the time. I think that right here is where I was going to. I know you like Brent, and I think that what you've been saying is schedule, and you're looking at, like a lot of us have said, 2025. I think a lot of us are higher on Oklahoma now than what we definitely. I've always targeted 2025. I think this is Georgia's year. But I think Oklahoma can make a run. I don't know how many people in the SEC do feel that way. Where do you see them kind of both of the new Red River teams coming in? Where do you see them in the grand scheme of things? Year one SEC.
Well, the way I go about it, because again, it's just like anything. I mean, if I was a chef for 13 years, I'd probably know what was going on when I walked into a restaurant. I know how the sausage is made at the end of the day. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, there's some people in sports media that, especially in college football, that they just say nice things about everybody. Like I can't do that. Like, oh, well, they're going to have, oh, tell me about this team. They're going to have a great year. What about this team? Oh, they're going to have a great year. Look, nobody sends me any money.
I'd rather hear what you want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. If I want to make everybody happy, I'd sell ice cream for a living. I'm just going to tell you what I really think. I'm just, that's just what it is. Cause I've been in it. I understand it. Here's what I look at with Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma, and I've said this since it was announced that when Brent went there and that they're going to the SEC, I think over a 10-year term, I would buy Oklahoma stock over Texas. I think over these first couple years, maybe even just the first year, I would take Texas's stock over Oklahoma for this reason. You got to look at all the variables. Yes, Oklahoma is returning some good pieces. Brent is building this thing the way that you're supposed to build it, from the inside out. Just like a great D-line can hide an average secondary better than an average D-line can hide a great secondary. That's not how it works. But you have a brand new quarterback, which Jackson Arnold is talented, but he's got to go through making some of these mistakes to be able to turn into that finished product, because he's going to be nice. He's going to be really nice. It's just going to take a little bit of time. There's going to be some high highs. There's going to be some low lows. So you got a brand new quarterback, and Deion's an absolute witch. But I don't think from a skill position standpoint, Oklahoma is as loaded as they have been in the past overall when you look at what Lincoln did offensively, right? When we go back to CD and all those guys. But when I look at Oklahoma's schedule.
They don't have a CD Lamb, but they
no, like Deion, look, Deion's incredible. Like there's some Oklahoma's always going to have good players, right? You're always going to have good players. It's just compared to the Georgias and the Alabamas and some of these other guys in aggregate, I don't think Oklahoma is where they're going to be in 2025 and then in 2026. So I think you're going to see Jackson. I don't think they're winning 10 games this year. I don't see Oklahoma winning double-digit games when you look at this schedule, because there's going to be some games Oklahoma wins where you go, wow, I really didn't think Oklahoma was going to win that game. There's going to be some games that they lose where you're like, man, I didn't expect Oklahoma to lose that game. Because here's the thing about the SEC, and this is what I've tried to tell every Texas and Oklahoma fan, and I've got mad respect for Texas and Oklahoma. I love college football. These are big brands that help grow the game of college football, the game that I love the most.
Sure.
The trick about the SEC is not the one-off win. And Texas got that got a little bit convoluted last year because they went in and beat Alabama, and you're like, oh, man. Well, if we just go in the SEC and we beat Georgia in the Georgia game and we beat Alabama, everything else will be fine. No. It's an optical illusion. The hardest part about the SEC is the week-out grind of, hey, yeah, man, we just beat Georgia. Man, all right, let's celebrate. Oh, shit, now we got to go play at Tennessee. And then we got to play LSU at home. And then we got to go to Ole Miss. There is not a week off. You don't have time to sit back. Not that the Big 12 had a bunch of sorry teams, but there were some times where you could kind of not play well and still win. In the SEC, outside of Vanderbilt and probably Mississippi State this year, we'll see with Auburn. Auburn is better. But I do think you're going to see Oklahoma's defense keep them in a lot of games that maybe if the offense is struggling, because again, you know this, the best offenses we've ever seen in college football, the best offenses we've seen in basketball and in baseball, there's a couple games or a couple times during the year where they're not operating at that highest efficiency level. So during those games, can that defense win the game? Can that special teams win the game? Right. That's the difference. So there's going to be bumps and bruises, and I'll be the first one to come back here if Oklahoma wins 10 games and said, look, I was wrong. Oklahoma surprised me. You came in, threw the first punch in the big prison. I'm just not seeing it. I feel like this is a bridge year to their biggest chance, which is in 2025.
And Coach you know that I'm coming back to this. You know that I'm going to rebut exactly what he has to say with what exactly I told you too, Coach I from Fanatic Sports Network. I don't know if you've been on his show or seen him before. They got a great Georgia show. Love their show.
Oh, yeah.
We do a lot of work together. We do a lot of work together. He's fun. But he's been saying this, and they're Georgia guys, man. They love their Bulldogs. I think Georgia is the cream of the crop in the SEC year one, without a doubt. I have less belief in Texas by a lot, and there's a reason for it. We watch and see Texas for everything that they were with all 11 of those guys that got drafted early, right? All 11 of them, they couldn't beat Oklahoma. And Oklahoma wasn't near as deep a year ago, particularly on the defensive side, as they were. They didn't have that kind of depth. They really didn't have a great running game till like that game and beyond where they had done anything. Dylan Gabriel had some games, and Jeff Lebby, he calls a good game, but he doesn't. The thing about Jeff Lebby is it's always been a situation where it seems like he forgets what he's trying to do, what his goal is for the day. You know what I mean? That he would get away from the run game and do some of that other stuff.
They try and it's called getting too cute.
Very much so. That's what happened in the Kansas game for sure. A lot of shit happened in the Oklahoma State game. Rivalry game, call it what you want, whatever. They shouldn't have lost that game either. And there's no excuse for losing the game, period. What I would tell you is that I've said this, 9-3 would be a really good year.
9-3 would be a great year this year. I know Oklahoma fans don't want to hear that. If y'all go in there and go 9-3 with Jackson Arnold, y'all are about to be like the Mega Ranger going into 2025.
Oh, yeah.
But the reason y'all run with Texas, right? And Oklahoma and Texas are both, I consider them equal. I don't consider one on top of the other.
What I was going to say about Texas, though, is that they have to have so many things go well. They didn't do well as far as their defensive line. They lost Bo Davis, and they lost their best pieces on the D-line. They weren't able to go get Dominic Williams like Oklahoma did, along with Jaden Jackson and Stoney and the guys that are already, upperclassmen. They've got a 6-deep D-line, rotation there that's going to be huge for them. They've got a 5-star in Peyton Bowen that if he plays more this year, he already was very good, and he got dinged up a little bit as a freshman. But then you've got guys like Billy Bowman, who should have been a Thorpe finalist a year ago, led the country in interceptions, had I think he was number 1 in pick sixes. He had 3 of them. This is a big deal. The linebacker room, Danny Stutzman coming back. You guys were talking about Danny Stutzman yesterday.
Yeah, I love Danny. I'm the son of a middle linebacker. I love me some Danny Stutzman, dog.
And he is that guy, right? I don't know that where I'm getting at with Oklahoma is that Jackson cannot be – he doesn't have to come out and be Baker or Kyler or anything like that for them to do very well. They don't have to be a top 10 offense because this defense, if everything goes the way we expect it to, which year 3 of Brent Venables, everywhere he's been, they've been a top 10 defense everywhere he's been. They've built that position the way it should be. They're not soft anymore. So I can see them winning 10. I could also see them winning 9. And I just got done saying before you got in here that 8-4 would probably be somewhat disappointing, but I also could see it, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't burn down the village if you go 8-4. Like,
absolutely not. It's your first year. Yeah. You've got tough road games. I get that part. I also think that if you're going to get Bama, it should probably be now. You get them at home. It should probably be now.
Yeah. Listen, as a guy that grew up in the state of Alabama and in Lee County, Alabama, you definitely got to take advantage of those home games against Alabama. Even though I will say I'm unbelievably interested in seeing this Kalen DeBoer experiment because I think Kalen DeBoer's tenure is going to be defined by the level of freak out from Alabama fans the first time something inevitably, like it always does in the sport of college football, goes wrong. Right? Because in the past, when stuff has gone wrong, it's guys, we can be upset, but it's Nick Saban. He's going to figure it out. Last year's a great example. You lose to Texas. Then you go down to South Florida. You look terrible. You beat them with a lacrosse player quarterback. People were freaking out.
Made it back to Tuscaloosa.
People were freaking out. But what did they say? Don't worry, Saban will fix it. And you want to know what? They were right. They were 100% right. Now, there's no, if it's going bad, they've got nothing to go off and say, well, Kalen DeBoer is definitely going to fix it. Like there's no equity built up. So that's what, let's say you go to Wisconsin, something goes wrong. Those big Siberian cave trolls they got up front, figure it out, and everybody's jumping their ass around. And then you got Georgia coming back the next week and something goes wrong. What level of freak out at Alabama are we going to see? And is Kalen DeBoer, how's he going to bounce back from that?
No doubt. And I think that, to some extent, you see that in a lot of places. Oklahoma, everywhere. For instance. Look, as bad as the situation was when Lincoln left, you had that stupid narrative out there that he left an 11-2 team. He did not. 2 5-star quarterbacks left when he left.
Yeah.
The only guys that are left over from Lincoln are Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Ethan Downs.
He went out for milk and never came back.
Yeah, and look, you know what? That's the best thing that could have happened to Oklahoma. At the time, you're like, what the fuck? What just happened? But it's the best thing that could have happened to OU. There's no two ways around that. What I feel like is these OU fans, there's a lot of them that were not okay with that 6 and 7, even though 5 of those losses were by 1 score. 5 of them.
Yeah, well, it's Oklahoma. I get that. The standard reality should always be accepted, but the standard should never be lowered.
The fact that you lost to who you lost to in a bowl game, first start for Jackson, they don't give a shit. They still, they're just going to say, well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yeah. Okay. You hope that they're going to move forward. I think that, and I said this earlier, I think that Coach you, some of these other guys are a lot different than a lot of the other creators around the SEC that have said, dismissed them, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's just stupid to do that.
The one thing I would say is Mizzou, to me, I don't buy Mizzou. I know they have an easy schedule. Oklahoma's going to beat the shit out of them. That's what they've talked too much.
Here's what I'll say about Missouri. Here's what I'll say about Missouri. And I get it. You know what I'm saying? Oklahoma, Missouri, y'all ain't exactly best friends. Y'all ain't having each other to everybody's barbecue. We talk about these other teams that have become more balanced. Missouri's a problem. Like they're a legitimate problem. Like Brady Cook's a good player. Where I'm worried about Missouri.
How much of a real problem are they when they had a bunch of really close games with and they didn't have they didn't play their schedule conference-wide, their wins in the conference were combined 14 and 34 in the conference.
Look, yeah, I get it, but you can only beat who's in front of you. Like again, at the end of the day, I don't penalize you for beating teams that you should beat. I mean, we are talking about Missouri,
I don't think they're as strong as a lot of people think that they are.
I think Ole Miss is better than Missouri. I would take Ole Miss over Missouri. I'm more worried about Missouri up front than I am about Ole Miss up front. Now, you look at Weiss, you look at Burden, they've got cats. Brady Cook, they're confident, they're feeling themselves, and their schedule's a little bit lighter than some other ones. But look, again, this is what makes it so fascinating. There's so many good teams that I can go ahead and tell you that there's going to be a lot of bumpiness for everybody. This isn't I don't think there is one team in the SEC that is going undefeated. I don't think Georgia's going undefeated throughout the regular season. So it makes it more fun for the viewer. Now, of course, you want your team to win every game, but that's the thing. Yeah, Missouri may not be the biggest dog in the yard, but if you go out there and you don't play well, it could go south very, very fast.
That I believe and understand. That I know. But I think that they've made sure that Oklahoma's going to show up for that game. They will not overlook you for that one.
Well, look, it's Oklahoma's first day in the prison. You got to punch everybody. Like, it ain't that. This is like you grab the food tray and just start smacking fools.
I think the main thing everybody's super excited about. I know I'm excited about it, getting to take this first trip around. I really wish that the league had not decided to be lazy about the schedule and, not flip it the second year to that other half like they had said they were going to. I wish you could get both sides of the schedule in the first 2 years, but I know moving forward, you're probably going to see that. I'm excited though about whatever happens. I think that, and to some extent, Texas definitely got an easier path this year, which I think a lot of that is why people expect them to do better this year. You said it yourself, Oklahoma's schedule's harder. No doubt about it. You got the LSU game. I don't know what I think of LSU so much yet. And I think that they definitely are hurting in the middle on the defensive side. Their offensive line's probably one of the top two.
They got one of the best offensive lines because they got 2 NFL tackles. The thing about LSU is that they're not going to be as elite as they were on offense last year, obviously, with what they lost. They're still going to be really good.
As bad as they were on defense. Right?
Defense, yeah. It goes back to the balance argument. I would take a little bit away from the offense to take a lot away from how bad that defense was. You'll be better in the long term. But again, it's I can't wait to run this ground ball out.
Yeah, I think that in the end, let's see. I mean, we're looking at who would be your team who's your favorite? I mean, aside from Georgia, let's say taking Georgia out, I think everybody has them as the favorite. Who's your next favorite up? And then who would be I'm not going to have you just have to give me your entire power line, but tell me who a couple maybe that you like as dark horses and another favorite.
I have Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss as my second best team in the league right now. When you look at schedule and everything, because I look at everything. I look at schedule, roster, all that. When's your bye week, stuff like that. You look at Ole Miss's schedule; it's pretty advantageous. No Bama, you get Georgia at home. I think the week after they play Oklahoma. Or I'm trying to remember who they played before that. But outside of that, I think Tennessee with Nico is interesting to me. Just because I think they're so much better on defense. Yeah, that Josh has built that thing up. Everybody thinks they just want to be flashy on offense. No, they really want to run the ball on offense. They just want to do it fast and play good defense. He's been able to accumulate that depth. As far as on the periphery, I think A&M's a little sneaky with Mike Elko. You're not hearing a lot out of A&M right now, which is great for them. They don't need to be talking trash about Nick Saban or the prima donnas of the league. They need to be the guy, the 12th man, gritty, guys that take you out behind the bar and whip your ass. They might not have all the 5 stars, but they'll win all the down and dirty fights. And I like Mike Elko. I just like the way that he's kind of put together. Outside of that, Alabama, obviously we know how talented they are. Jalen Milroe's the guy that's, I think, going to make this transition, even with Ryan Grubb now being gone. It's going to make this transition a lot easier for Kalen DeBoer in Alabama, especially in year 1. LSU, I expect them to be better. But as far as somebody coming out of nowhere to really shock anybody, Auburn's schedule is a lot easier this year. I think 8-4 is a legitimate mark, probably floor of 7-5. But then, again, you have Missouri right there. You have, Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. South Carolina, I still don't think is good enough up front, even though I love Lenore Sellers. I think Lenore Sellers has a chance to be a really good player. They're just, they got more holes than Camp Green Lake on the offensive line and defensive line. So
did they get a receiver yet? Or no, they did for sure.
Well, they lost Juice Wells to Ole Miss. That hurts.
Coach I's nephew, they did pretty well recruiting receivers. It's Clemson that's not doing it over there.
Georgia's about to beat Clemson to death. Remember I said that?
Yes,
I've seen this. I remember when, Florida State's number 3, and they're going to play there. DeAndre Francois, they were going to give Alabama a run for their money. Man, they were picking up. They turned DeAndre Francois into Mr. Potato Head in that game. They said the same thing about Miami. They're going to murder Clemson. Georgia's going to. You want to know why that game's being played at 11 or 12 o'clock? Because they know Georgia's going to murder Clemson.
11:30.
Yeah, that's going to be the ass beating of a lifetime. Yeah. And Georgia's pissed. They don't have to make up adversity this year. That's the scariest thing.
Well, yeah, they don't have to make it up because they lost that game and didn't get in the playoff,
God, dude, they just been staring at each other and lifting weights.
Yep. Carson Beck had to be the first guy. I mean, you had a walk-on win back-to-backs, and then you didn't get it done, Carson.
No, they're pissed.
He's going to come in angry. Yeah, I think that for sure that's where I was at on it too. As far as with the favorite for sure being Georgia, I think that
it's easy.
I like LSU, but I'm a little more worried about them defensively for them to make the run all the way.
Which is so wild to say because forever growing up, it's weird. New LSU traded places with old Ole Miss. They've literally just Freaky Friday switched. Like Ole Miss just used to be, hey, a lead on offense, but God, we're awful on defense. Now Ole Miss, you're like, wow, that's a balanced team. And you look at LSU and you're like, how can LSU not get great defensive linemen? Literally, it's just with the way I grew up watching LSU, they were a defensive team that just so happened to be pretty good on offense every now and then.
That's what I was going to ask you too. What did you think about what Brian Kelly came out and said may have hurt them in a lot of ways? What you talked about yesterday, going back to Billy, it's kind of the same thing I feel about Brian Kelly. With Billy doing that, and you said it yesterday, these guys talk, their parents talk to other recruits and people around the country about what you're doing, right? But these recruits are going to talk to each other, and if, they lost the number 1 receiver in the country, who was committed there for 9 months, a week after he came out and said, we're not going to buy players. I also think that you probably heard the guys in the locker room were like, bullshit. You bought us.
Yeah. Well, here's what it sounded. It sounded to me like when you go to the club and there's that guy that's talking that goes up to hit on the girl and she's like, I'm not interested. And you're like, oh no, I wasn't interested either. No, you were interested. It just didn't work out, and now your ego's.
He always takes it too far, though. He always takes it too far, and
he does. Well, here's the thing with BK. I think BK is one of the best CEOs, in the game.
I think he's
when it comes.
I just think
it's what my thing is this. Here's the way I look at it. again, the fact that LSU is having to sit here and practically beg for interior defensive linemen is just an alternate reality to me. But you talk about nobody wants to overspend on anything. You don't want to overspend on a player. You don't want to overspend on a car. But if I run out of gas,
Bo Davis though,
yeah,
and he
well,
get the guys they needed for him.
If I run out of gas on the side of the road and there's a 20-mile hike to the next gas station I got to walk, and I'm walking with my gas can, and somebody pulls up next to me and says, "Hey, listen, I got $20 worth of gas in a gas can in the back of my car that I'll give you for $40. I'll overspend to not have to take the 20-mile hike to go actually get gas. If I'm LSU, if Ole Miss rolls up there and runs it through y'all for 320 yards again, I guarantee you, y'all got money. It wouldn't hurt to spend an extra $300,000 on a guy to be able to stop the run a little bit more and win the game. I would be willing to bet everything I have that if LSU loses to Ole Miss because they can't stop the run because the 3-tech in the shade can't stop it, and you asked every LSU fan leaving that stadium, would you have minded LSU as an NIL spending $200,000 more to be able to stop the run against Ole Miss and you win the game? Every single one of them, they'd probably be willing to start a GoFundMe to do it, to be honest with you. So to me, it's a little bit, it's hypocritical. You need to win. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, look, I mean, and it's your best, and this is what he did at Notre Dame though too. It was we're shopping on a different aisle than everybody else, at Notre Dame.
Well,
Marcus Freeman doesn't seem to be having that issue with recruiting. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't think
Notre Dame looks a little bit different than what they've looked like in the bit. Brian Kelly made that decision to go to the SEC when they played Bama in the national championship game, and he had to see what they look like compared to what Bama looked like. And he
doesn't like to recruit. He still doesn't recruit. He still doesn't recruit.
No.
But
LSU should recruit itself.
Absolutely.
Like that's
absolutely. I that's why I thought it was a great match for LSU. I know we got to I don't think that it's not necessarily. I just said immediately I felt like he doesn't like to recruit. He doesn't have to there.
Yeah. You're right.
You go in there and I think the Denbrock move, does that hurt him at all? I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, I think it does. I mean, look, Mike again is one of the best in the business. Anytime you lose somebody and look, at the end of the day, coaching matters. I'm not saying it doesn't, but there's been a lot of coaches that looked a lot smarter than what they were because they had better players. There's been a lot of coaches that look dumber than what they actually are because they didn't have as good as players. It's about the personnel. All fit the system to the personnel. Give me the personnel.
That's right. And this is why Oklahoma fans are excited. You finished in the top 10 all three cycles. They're in the top 3 right now.
Y'all in good hands, man.
So I'm excited about it.
Situation.
Hey, man, I know we got to let you get out of here. I really appreciate you coming in. Tell everybody how to find you so that you can get more guys over there. I love your show, man. Excited about having you on here, and it was a lot of fun talking to you.
Dude, always down to come on. You do a fantastic job, man. I was glad we could link up through High Top, and yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk multiple times. But no, it's really easy. Just go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's Crain and Company, Crain Company. We talk mainly college football and NFL. Football's the breadwinner over there, but we have fun. It's me, my brother, and former Michigan quarterback David Cohn. We start live 2 p.m. Central. We have live phone calls as well. You want to call? We have a bunch of Oklahoma fans that watch the show that call in, and we have some fun back and forth there. So come hang out with us. It's an old school sports show. And I think you'll enjoy it. I'm the guy in the middle that's the best looking and is right more than the other two.
It's what I said earlier. I said he's the Crain and Company, and if he denies that, I'll just tell Ben that he told me that anyway. So it's all good.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, thanks, bud. Have a good one.
You too. See you guys.
All right, man. Jake Crain from Crain and Company. A lot of fun, man. You guys are over here wanting me to bust his balls like the second he got in here sooner, huh? I love it. There's nobody like my Sooner fans for sure. Even coming at me a little bit if I don't immediately go attack dog on my guests. I love it. I love it. Yep. Lincoln, what'd you say? Oh, Brian Kelly's accents. Coach gets most of their NIL. Yeah. His accent. That I think I still have that too. Maybe I don't, but yeah, I do. When he says Tigers at the end of that stupid rant that he was saying about that we're not gonna If you want to come here and be developed and in relationships and stuff, then you should be a Tiger. Come on, bro. Come on. Hilarious stuff. Gotta hold them accountable on the home turf. Hey, you guys, I let you do all that, and you know I will always defend the home turf, bro. I always do. Coach gonna come in here busting my balls too, because and knowing that I was gonna go back at it, knowing I was. So, yeah, guys, I appreciate everybody coming in. Let me know what you guys think about this whole deal with Billy. I mean, I know a lot of people, selfishly would say, yeah, keep him there or whatever. If you don't think he's that good a coach, I actually don't think he's doing a terrible job. I think that they had some stupid things go on. That Utah game, I was going to bring that up when he said that, when Jake just brought it up. That was that game I remember, Coach. But when that's week 1, so we're getting ready to go on the snap count, and we're talking about that game. Like, what the hell did we just watch? It wasn't that Thursday night game or something like that. What the hell did we just watch? Wild stuff, man. It was just a weird game, and so you see those weird things. But he recruits very well, and I think that DJ Lagway, and you almost wish they do fire him so that you don't have to deal with it. Maybe DJ Lagway goes to the Big Ten. Or maybe you get him or something. Maybe we get him something. I don't think that's probably the case in terms of Oklahoma. I like where they are offensively, particularly with their quarterbacks. Neilio! Yeah, no, it's staying at 8 for at least these first 2 years until that they're going to hold out until they get more money from ESPN and they figure out how this is going to shake out for the playoff. I think if they get 4-4 in there, then I can see them doing it. I think it's best. I mean, you guys know how I feel about it. I don't need to see a game against Maine. I don't need to. I mean, 3 games against those cupcake types is enough. But then again, I mean, you go through a gauntlet schedule and everybody talks about the gauntlet schedule that you got to run through. It doesn't hurt to go and play a Maine before you have to host Alabama at the end of the year, which is what's going to happen with Oklahoma. I definitely understand why they do it the way they do, because you take that opportunity to get beat up throughout the rest of the year. As a Big 12 guy, yes, I hated it just like you guys do. So I'll just tell you, yeah, I'm going to be a little talking out of both sides of my mouth with that one. But that is, I mean, if you're looking at it, no, it's before the Mizzou game for Oklahoma. So, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that. So, yeah. Between Ole Miss and Mizzou is the main game. So, it's like getting another bye at a decent time if you're Oklahoma. But, again, I would rather see them have I would definitely, yeah. Well, that coach is gone, though. Coach Kill's actually at Vanderbilt now as like the DC or maybe assistant head coach, and then the offensive coordinator. That's why they got that other guy. I don't know, man. I hadn't talked to him since last night. He was still pretty pissy. Guys, and just to address that a little bit, love my guy Cody. Love High Top Sports. Shelton, Cody, those guys are our boys. And I told him I felt like that was out of line. I think that I understand it because of the fact that, look, we are all of us are just as emotional and quick to take up for our programs. Coach I was getting mad at Jay the other day on Twitter because of, because Jay was kind of poking at him about the headline that was written about the guy driving the wrong way down that street. Was either one of them wrong? Probably not. Did I understand why Coach I was getting pissed? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Same thing with a lot of these other guys. I get it why Florida fans that are excited and how they can really be excited coming into this schedule, it's tough. But the DJ Lagway thing, a lot of that other kind of stuff, I get it. Love that guy. But he was out of line, and he completely couldn't keep his head there. And I understand it, and we're good. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. If you guys get a chance to catch him on his channel, he'll be on there. Give him a little love. Tell him we love him because we do. It's, hey, Me, Coach I, and Shotty got into it that night in here, and it wasn't really that big a deal, but we were kind of barking at each other. This is what we do. But it's, again, I would also say this is part of what makes it fun. I'm not a fan of blaming what this thing in college football is right now on people that had nothing to do with the rule making. Not a fan. So I wasn't going to allow that to happen a whole lot. I didn't look, man. You guys all know what I think about freaking USC. USCJ's on the show with me. I wasn't attacking him like that, and there was no reason for Cody to do that either. And I think that he'd probably tell you that today. But we all got to kind of, he got really, really upset. Coach kills a trip, man. Did you hear what happened last year in the bowl game? That's why he's not at state anymore. One of the players, I don't know if it was during the bowl week because they played the New Mexico Bowl, which is in Albuquerque. I don't remember if it was during the bowl week or maybe during the regular season, that at the indoor practice facility before the game, I guess one of the players was pissing on the logo on the field in the practice facility. So UNM got mad and wouldn't let him practice there. And it's freaking colder than shit in Albuquerque this time of year. And he threw a shit fit after the bowl game and said he didn't care if it got him fired, that he would leave and go to Mexico, blah, 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 blah. He definitely left. So it was a pretty funny story, but Coach kills a trip, man. He's a trip. He's been a hell of a coach, though. But always some weird shit that goes on with him, though, man. The SMU TCU fight from a couple of years ago where he ended up getting his ass kicked by TCU guys mostly. So that's it was pretty funny, man. It's pretty funny stuff. Anyway, look, I got all respect for USCJ, but he's the kind of guy that he's going to come back at you too. And Cody started going at him, and then, but what he said about when you say that Cam Ward isn't good, that he's a bum, that's going to elicit a response. It got one from all of us, but it just, it got a little more of one from USCJ, which really got Cody going. I almost clipped it. I don't want to do that. I love the guy. It was funny stuff. He's a good guy, right? Yeah. And he's had a lot of health issues though, right? You mean old Midnight Mail, Mars Jams? Midnight Mail? Something to do with the lawsuit that was going on with them or whatever, but they knew about it when they hired him too. I don't know. I think that what they needed a reason to fire him for cause, because he comes in, wins 11 games the first year, and then they went in the tank after that, and they given him 110 million or some shit like that. So they wanted to be able to not pay the cap. It's exactly what it was. They thought they had the guy on that. Huh? Oh, you were mad at me? I knew you weren't mad at me. Or you weren't mad at who? No, we weren't mad. We were just kind of going back and forth. This is what we do, though. This is all how, man, that's part of, it's not even just in the Southeast, Coach. I would say that's how people debate sports. It gets lively. This is why we do this stuff, I would say. If Ward has a bad season, I get that. I get that. If was the fifth, we'd all be drunk. Hey, you don't get them all right, even though I do. That's actually a shot at Coach I right there. Just giving him shit. You don't get them all right, man. It's one of those things. I think that, and don't get me wrong, I'm not one to. I'm not exactly counting on Miami to do shit, but I don't really think it's going to have a ton to do. If they don't, I'm not thinking it's going to be a Ward problem. I think it's going to be a Mario Cristobal and worth the shit problem. This is me. So it is what it is. It's Coach I, your brother would be all kinds of mad if they don't get something done this year, huh? I'm real mad. Yeah, man, good to see you there. Bishop Frank as well. Glad you love it. And we love, hey, look, man, this is the thing is that we do this because it's a freaking blast. There's nothing I would rather be doing than talking ball, yelling, getting yelled at, whatever. You know, it got a little heated last night because of where he was at going with it. And because I'm at that point right now where I'm really tired of seeing guys get hammered like that. These players that have nothing to do with it, with the rules that are in place. That doesn't mean that they all do it right either. That doesn't mean that they all do it right. And I think that some parents, you need to hold them accountable for what's going on. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that Florida doesn't have any fault in this, then it could definitely fall somewhere in that there's the truth, there's your truth, there's what I think is the truth, and then there's something in the middle, and that's usually what the real truth is. Your side, my side, and then the truth. And the truth is usually something in the middle. Bottom line, they may not have Billy. It sounded to me like they have Billy on a recording. We haven't heard it yet, so I'm not positive about that, but I've heard it a bunch. We know that they've got text messages from the guy that's no longer with the school that was the NIL director. That is enough to cook Billy if the rules were still in place. He'd be cooked. Florida would be cooked. So that's enough. We know, I don't know if it was $9.5 million at Miami or not. I don't know whether to believe the life wallet cat or not. Don't care. It was enough to get him to turn down whatever the number is in Miami. And if they had no intention of paying him at all, period, you cannot tell me that's okay. I don't give a fuck what your belief is about the kid or how good you think he is. I don't want to hear that's an okay way to do things, because it's not. It's just not an okay way to do things. It's not an okay. What would that, I mean, you know, as two adults that are going into business, and these things happen for sure, and it's damn sure obviously a good lesson for them. But then, you know, he also, you know, then Cody was like, oh yeah, he goes to Georgia, and immediately that's when he files the lawsuit. He'd been waiting to file that lawsuit since he left. He was waiting on his attorney to say it was okay. They were getting their ducks in a row. I would tend to agree with what I think it was. It may have been, who said that earlier? Oh, maybe rhyming, or somebody said that listening to the to Crain and Company yesterday, that they feel like they had some, anytime they wanted to get rid of that contract. Okay, that's fine. I understand that. But I would also tell you that James Thrice was in here last night, and he's I don't know that he's been in the legal business since he's been an adult. He said unequivocally that he has every leg to stand on as far as if they can, you know, they obviously, you got to be able to prove it. If they've got any type of proof whatsoever, and it sounds to me like they do. Yeah. Oh, Coach is always good, man. He's always good. He gets a little pissy about here and there. Yeah, you guys got him wound up with the whole Notre Dame stuff that time. That was funny. That shit was funny. Oh yeah. Oh no, I didn't necessarily think I thought it was funny. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah. I thought you were getting a little butthurt at him. But no, I know. Well, I think not necessarily at him. You were saying that you didn't appreciate the report or whatever, the way that they put that headline out there. I didn't necessarily think that it was a bad. I mean, it wasn't a false headline. I think that it was kind of a clicky headline. But that's what they're trying to do. That being said, you could have put a subheading underneath there that said what was going on too. You're still going to get the click with the little subheading or whatever. You know what I mean? I think that there's a way to go about that as well. I saw both sides of that. I just thought it was funny. I mean, I'll put the popcorn guy up there. Put the popcorn guy up there. No, there was a contract with them. Still, there was a contract, but they terminated it, and they apparently they had the right to terminate the contract. The problem after that, though, was that they continued to tell him, because we're talking on the 6th, when they were saying they were going to pay him on the 5th. By the 5th, on the 6th, they terminated the contract, even though they had said they were going to pay him anyway. According to and all this is alleged, but look, something was being said for sure. There was stuff going back and forth between the collectives. There was definitely stuff going on. So they certainly strung him along until signing day, and then they pressured him on signing day to sign anyway. That, to me, it's not just about whether there was a contract or not. By the letter of the law, can they get away with it? Probably. I mean, it's not a criminal case anyway. By the letter of the law, can they get away with it? Sure they can. And they knew they could. But because we're talking about it at the time, an illegal activity. So they all knew what they were doing. That's what makes it even more egregious, is that you're already doing some illegal shit. And so by doing that, you put that kid in a bad position when it sounded to me like Miami was actually going to pay him. That's not okay. That's not okay for Billy to do that. That's not okay for that. I get the boosters do shit and I understand schools doing that to each other. I don't really have a problem with that if the kid doesn't suffer on that. You used that kid and took away $10 million essentially from him. That's not okay. And then you call him a freaking bag chaser when you freaking put the carrot out there. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that. Any update on SEC Media Days? I'm glad you said that. Got to get a hold of Jim today. We're pretty close, actually. I think we're really close to getting that anyways. There's a couple of things we're working on with it. So Jim is actually trying to get us an actual booth and all that kind of stuff, which isn't the easiest thing to do at SEC Media Days. So we're working on that. And I trust our guy that we got to get it done. I mean, he's connected all the way in, with ESPN. He's worked for a long time. So I think it's going to happen. Yeah, right. It was that was kind of weird, right? For a GL. It was Dog Nation. Yeah. It was kind of surprising, actually. The outlaws seemed legit, but again, it's not just that there wasn't a contract anymore. I'm saying is, okay, that's fine. You want to terminate the contract. You could have he had time from the 6th to we're talking about 2 full weeks until signing day. He could have went elsewhere than where he ended up going. And I'm not even saying anything bad about Arizona State. I mean, Dillingham's a hell of a coach, but he didn't have to go there. He might have ended up at Georgia then. He might have ended up in this. I mean, Alabama needed a freaking quarterback at times. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have their quarterback. Milroe was there. There's some schools, though, that there's teams that could have left. Shit, you don't think Okie Light would have loved to have freaking Rashada? No, they wouldn't. They would have screwed that up and still played that freaking bum. In the end, I think that the way that they went about it, a judge can definitely see that a certain way, right? It's definitely sleazy. It's definitely wrong the way that they did that, right? It's just not okay. Yeah. No, but well, it's actually been filed in Florida federal court though, because of where he is now and where Florida is. So it's in a federal court in Florida is where it's going through. And the other thing I would say, this is the last thing I want to say about that, is the other reason that I'm saying, you saw the report that immediately Florida says we're not named in the report. That doesn't mean that they believe that Florida didn't have nothing to do with it. There's a state law in the state of Florida that says you can only get so much in damages from a state institution. Yeah. So. Oh, yeah. You want to ask BK a question at SEC Media Days? You want Coach to ask Brian Kelly a question? Oh, shit. I do too. Here's the thing. We won't have to ask him to do a damn thing. He's not a fan. Not a fan. He's been around BK a lot, man. He spends a lot of time. He goes to a lot of games. They went to the Ireland game last year. They didn't go to as many last year. I think he went to 3 maybe. There's been years that they went to like 8, 9, I think. But yeah, it's I could see that happening for sure. Definitely could see that happening. In Dallas, no, we've been to a few different places. I love Dallas, but it's at the Omni, so there's some great places around there, and that whole live down at the stadium, live where you've got the baseball stadium and Jerry World is right there. That place is legit. It's legit. That's where we stayed last time. But it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. That's where we stayed for Big 12 Media Days. But it's going to be at the Omni, which that pissed a lot of Big 12 people off. But Big 12 got it. They're going to Vegas. So I may actually go the next week and go home to Vegas and go stay with my son and go anyway. So we'll see kind of how it goes. I think Bomber wants to go too. So might want to make that happen as well. But the thing is, we would like to get the quicker the better because, we need to. I want to get a sponsor for kind of the coverage that we're going to do out of SEC Media Days. I think you can do that. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, and that's the thing. For as long as Coach has been out there in Dallas, he knows them all. He knows them all. Here's the thing. It's not the same as like New Mexico where I'm from and stuff like that. That's the best Mexican food, but you can get some really good Mexican food in that area of Texas. South Texas is a little better. Houston's got really good Mexican food. Dallas is still pretty good. But, yeah, and their barbecue's okay, but I'm still a KC barbecue guy, man. And so kind of is what it is. It's been a while since I've been to KC, though. Might have to host us one of these times up there, Neilio. Get some barbecue. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to – you know what? And Coach, we should talk about that. But I think whether or not we ended up being at SEC Media Days at the media day itself, I think we could still get some stuff done there and kind of hang out and do. We kind of talked about that. Yeah. Hey, man, I enjoy travel for sure. Not afraid of that at all. So I could see that happening, man. We've been talking a little bit about doing something during the summer and kind of all meeting up, seeing if we can kind of all meet up somewhere and chill. SEC Media Days will be perfect for that because of Dallas or whatever. But I think we're working at all that stuff. We're going to see what we can get done, man. Definitely see what we can get done. All right, guys. We've been going for a good while here. Make sure that you hit that like button if you haven't already done it. Thanks, everybody, for coming in and supporting us the way you do. Coach, good to see you, man. We need to get together. We haven't been on a show together in a while. I'm like, man, damn. I know you've been busy. Your basketball team still running right now, Coach, or are you about to finish that up? Let me know on that. I needed to jump back on your little deal. Are you still doing your other show, your 365 show deal that you talking about? I hadn't watched it much lately, so I kind of got some stuff going on, but we need to get together either way and talk and kind of talk about some of the stuff that we're going to do over the summer and leading into this season. Guys, definitely, if you hadn't already noticed, we're actually getting ready to start up with Coach I on his Saturday night snap count. You're going to have, how many was it? 6 leading up to the season, Coach I? I'll get that. I want to make sure I get those dates for that. Let me go and find it real quick, actually, and I'll drop it in what I'll do is drop it in the deal here. I'll put it on Twitter. Neilio, I didn't see you on Twitter. Did you go and find me the other day? I'm going to drop my Twitter again to make sure you do that so that we need to announce some of this at other places. I mean, I've got an Instagram, I got Facebook if you want me to drop it to somebody on one of those as well. But there's my Twitter there. There's somewhere that you're wanting us to drop schedules and things like that. But definitely hey, the Saturday Night Snap Count is one of my favorite shows, period, because we just get on there and talk, and you get to talk about a full day worth of football. I'll tell you one thing for us SEC folks, the first couple of weeks or the weeks that we're seeing so far of the schedule that's coming out, you don't have time off to, I mean, you're going to watch football literally all day. 365 combo still on. Am I on Thursday? I haven't actually gone the last couple of weeks. I've had a couple of things that have popped up, but I hadn't really had guests either. So we can figure out whatever. If you got time, we can get together and do something on tomorrow. Yeah, for sure. Let me know. And so I'll jump back on that LinkedIn and whatever you got time. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Okay, you did follow me? Okay, cool. All right, man. Neil, thanks for coming in. Sharpshooter, all you guys, appreciate you more than you know. Steel, Lincoln Riley's brisket, Sooner in Texas, ball busting. Hank, Bishop Frank, as always, Mars Jams, Sooner from SoCal, man. Good to see you back in here again as well. Coach Ricks, man, Coach Ricks is one of my boys too. I like seeing all these guys in here. Of course, Coach I-Man, always good to see you as well. Hankster, Chicken, thanks for coming in as always. Man, lots of fun. That's all we really do around here. Wampus, thanks for coming in. Shout out to Coach Smook. Thanks for coming in, Coach Smook. We're going to have to get over there and get on his show pretty soon too, man. He's got a cool show. They're really cool. Alabama guys. Alan Woody, good to see you, brother. Ryman Lemon, Sooner Legend. Of course, Neil. Neilio, thank you for that super chat as well. Let's see who else. I don't want to miss anybody. Motivated, dedicated, you shit talker. I already knew what you were doing. Chicken. Coach Riggs. I already said everybody, I think I got everybody there. T-Boomer. I knew it. I was about to miss somebody. And Brian Sandlin. Guys, thanks so much for coming in. Kimberly K. Always good to see you as well. Make sure you hit that like button. Check out our official pod merch store, the Melreg Performance Golf Apparel store. And if you want to save money on your wireless, you still get on that largest 5G network in the country, TryMintMobile.com/HOF. 3 months, unlimited talk, text, and data, $45. Get in there and check it out. You can keep your other service while you're testing it out. That's why it's such a great deal. Go check a look. We will see you all on the next one.